Hey everyone, welcome back to The Explainer. Today we're unpacking a really fascinating challenge in the tech world. We are going to explore the severe financial roadblocks that sovereign founders face when they're trying to build and ultimately exit modern tech infrastructure. If you've ever wondered who actually owns innovation and what structural barriers are really in play behind the scenes, well, stick around. Let's dive right into what the sources reveal.
Okay, let's dive right into this with a quote from the source materials that paints a pretty stark picture of the traditional hypergrowth startup model. It says, they don't really care if the horse is killed as long as there is one winning. Ouch, right? I mean, it's a brutal summary, but it immediately establishes the harsh stakes of a system where founders can basically be treated like disposable lottery tickets in a massive numbers game.
So the sources map out this fundamental clash in how new companies are built. On one side, you've got what they call the liquidator VC. Think of it like a frantic Las Vegas casino floor. It's extractive, it treats founders as disposable, and it's totally obsessed with these rapid, two-year speculative hype cycles. Literally like strip mining for quick cash. But then, on the flip side, we have the legitimacy VC. This model is a lot more like a vineyard. It prioritizes sustainable, genuine partnership and relies on a mathematically sound philosophy of compounding growth over a full 10-year horizon. It's a night-and-day difference.
All right, here is our roadmap for today. We're going to take a journey from the macroeconomics of venture capital straight down to the bare metal logic of silicon. We'll be hitting the venture capital casino, the illusion of exit, the paper millionaire problem, planting the 10-year vineyard, engineering the semiotic bridge, and lastly, the sovereign publishing house.
Let's kick things off with Section 1, the venture capital casino. We really need to understand the incredibly hostile environment founders are forced to navigate in this legacy system.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what we're talking about, 250,000. That's the estimated number of overlapping, active patents sitting on a single modern smartphone. I mean, wow! The sources describe this as a suffocating legal thicket that touches everything from the antenna right down to the pixels on your screen. It represents 250,000 ways for independent creators to just get completely crushed and entangled by corporate giants before their idea even has a chance to see the light of day.
Moving on to Section 2, the illusion of exit. This is where we hit the core conflict of our explainer, a severe temporal misalignment between the capital backing a project and the actual creation of it.
Here is where the math simply does not work. The source materials highlight this staggering mismatch in timelines. Traditional venture funds demand an exit in roughly 7 to 10 years, right? But the reality on the ground is that to build sovereign, world-changing infrastructure and actually achieve those massive venture-scale returns, you really need 12 to 20 years for that technology to fully mature. So that 7 to 10-year VC demand, it completely fails to overlap with the 12 to 20-year reality. It's like trying to force a square peg into a round hole.
Which brings us to Section 3, the paper millionaire problem. Let's shift gears and look at the devastating real-world consequences of this friction using some hard data from the sources.
Now, what's really interesting about this data is how it breaks down exit realities in emerging markets. If we look specifically at the African tech ecosystem from 2015 to 2024, those classic Silicon Valley exit assumptions totally fall apart. IPO success, less than 1%. And even then, they sometimes end in catastrophic SPAC collapses, like the highly publicized fall of Swivel. Instead, we're seeing that 60 to 70% of exits are just foreign strategic acquisitions. Basically, the sources argue that funds are optimizing for these grand exits that, practically speaking, just do not exist.
And the collateral damage of optimizing for exits that don't exist is honestly severe. Because the venture fund needs liquidity well before the company is actually ready, founders get pushed into forced premature sales or vastly underpriced acquisitions. Plus, because secondary markets remain so illiquid and irregular, early employees get trapped. They become what's known as paper millionaires, meaning they hold equity on paper, but they are absolutely unable to sell it. It's a massive financial roadblock.
Let's pivot over to Section 4, planting the 10-year vineyard. Now that we've seen the problem, we need to look at the mindset required to protect founders from all that collateral damage.
So the crucial point here is that true technological innovation simply cannot be rushed into an artificial 2-year hype cycle. The sources propose stepping away from the casino and moving toward the legitimacy VC model, which commits to a full 10-year time horizon. Think of it like a venture architecture lab. You have to plant the seeds, weather those harsh early seasons, and meticulously cultivate a yield that actually compounds over a full decade.
Okay, Section 5, engineering the semiotic bridge. This is where we descend from the high-level macroeconomics straight down into bare metal computer logic to see how creator sovereignty is actually built.
The text describes this massive, frankly terrifying gap between two totally alien worlds. On one side, you have OS Alpha, your human brain. It's warm, it's messy, it's highly associative, fueled by lived experience. But on the exact opposite side, you have the microchip's arithmetic logic unit, or the ALU. And the ALU is cold. It's rigidly deterministic and it demands unapologetic exactness. It cannot process our fuzzy human intent without a totally exact translation. So strict, explicit text is quite literally the only safe deterministic bridge connecting your nonlinear imagination to the unyielding exactness of the machine.
And crossing that bridge flawlessly allows us to create something the sources brilliantly call the record of sweat. I absolutely love this concept. It's the undeniable, mathematically verifiable, cryptographic history of a creator's physical human effort. By anchoring this explicit text on a blockchain, you're creating a permanent history that proves, mathematically, that real work happened. Best of all, you completely bypass the need for a centralized tech monarch or some extractive platform to validate your value.
Finally, we arrive at Section 6, the Sovereign Publishing House. Let's bring that macro philosophy and the micro architecture together to reveal the ultimate structural solution for founders. To practically implement that record of sweat, the architecture relies on specific protocols like ERC-7827. Now, what is that? It's a JSON smart contract layer that uses a last-in, first-out, or LIFO structure for bit-perfect value version control. Because the very last item to go in is the first item to come out, it acts as a tamper-proof digital seal, almost like an ancient ledger. And even better, it brings high data availability right to everyday developers through simple, familiar REST calls. It takes this abstract digital reality and grounds it firmly in mathematical truth.
Let's move to the next part and see how this builds a completely new collaborative ecosystem. The sources outline a three-step sweepstakes lure workflow, and it's wild. It actually shows how Web3 VCs adapted an old 1950s direct mail hustle from the publisher's clearinghouse just to summon genius. Step 1 is the lure, where they publish high-fidelity theoretical white papers. Step 2 is the core, using those ERC-7827 developer ledgers we just talked about to capture the actual value. And step 3 is validation, where the VC acts as a clinical auditor of that cryptographic record of sweat.
So, as this entire landscape of startup funding and technological architecture shifts under our feet, the sources leave us with a critical choice to deeply ponder. Moving forward, will you pull the lever in the destructive casino optimizing for exits that don't even exist? Or will you build your legacy in the mathematically sound vineyard? The future of how we fund and build real innovation depends entirely on that answer. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and hey, keep building.